Well, it looks like Wrong Turn finally went in the right direction. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're talking about a brand new VOD release, the reboot of Wrong Turn. I recently did a review series on the other 6 Wrong Turn movies, and I'll leave a link to the playlist in the description in case you missed any of them. And in the meantime, let me know in the comments what your thoughts on this movie were, if you were excited for it. If you weren't planning on seeing it, let me know in the comments so we can discuss. Also, make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you like these reviews, as it helps me out immensely by getting my channel out there and growing the community. And if you are new here, I hope you consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases, older films, hidden gems, and so much more on a near daily basis. But let's not waste any more time and let's talk about Wrong Turn 2021. This focuses on a group of friends hiking the Appalachian Trail who are confronted by the Foundation, a community of people who have lived in the mountains for hundreds of years. Also known as Wrong Turn: The Foundation outside of the US to distinguish it from the original movie, this is directed by Mike P. Nelson and is written by Alan B. McElroy, who also wrote the very first movie. And as I mentioned, this is a reboot of the franchise, whereas the first 6 movies focused on the characters being attacked by inbred cannibals known as the Hilliker brothers. This instead has characters attacked by a cult, which is the aforementioned The Foundation. And whereas the previous 6 movies went more for the schlocky, campy, B-movie vibe, this is played much more seriously and is meant to have a little more of a complex story. And I say that in the loosest way possible, as this really isn't the deepest movie around by any means. It's just this time around they do attempt to give some of the characters arcs here and not make everyone feel as disposable as the other films did, as this isn't so much of a slasher movie like the others. Now, that's not to say there aren't disposable characters here. Unfortunately, that still is the case, and without getting into spoilers as to who, but as expected with these sort of movies, a number of characters don't make it through here. And this is filled with plenty of the bloody violence that was present in the other Wrong Turn movies, though maybe not presented in as such an over-the-top manner. When a character gets killed off here, it's not supposed to be this moment where it happens and everyone moves on as if they were always here by themselves, and they totally forget about everyone. When one character gets killed here, we do show the others being visibly shaken by this, and it affects their decision-making as the movie goes on. We don't spend a ton of time with all these characters before the chaos ensues, but the little time we do spend with them is supposed to establish these characters as having a bit more of a personality than the other protagonists we've gotten in all these other Wrong Turn movies. Though I still wouldn't exactly call them memorable, to be perfectly honest, but I do appreciate the attempt at character development. There was one thing I noted early on in the film where the group of friends are at this bar, and one of the locals is trying to scare them out, and I think he calls them dumb kids or something to that effect. And then one of the friends starts listing off all the accomplishments of everyone in the group, which to me they go a bit overboard with this. Like, all these characters are in their mid to late 20s, and it's like they're all small business owners or executives in their companies or tech geniuses or things of that nature. It's like the filmmakers really try pushing, oh no, we're way smarter than any of the other protagonists in these movies. Like they all belong in a 30 under 30 write-up, which ends up just being really funny to me, especially considering once things get chaotic, a few of them do wind up making some pretty dumb decisions here. Mainly, they'll wander off on their own and not say anything to anyone else. And there's one instance where they get into this little morality-based argument once things get hectic. Like early on, one of them clearly almost gets killed by one of these Foundation members, and then they retaliate. But one of the other protagonists is like, oh my god, what did you do? How could you do this? And I just found it to be a little far-fetched, as it's clearly been established by this point in the movie that the name of the game is survival. I mean, trying to have a morality argument about what happened and acting as if it wasn't in their best interest to do what they did is kind of a stretch, to be honest. So things like that push the suspension of disbelief for me for a little bit. Now, the character making this argument is Jen, played by Charlotte Vega, and despite this one incredibly dumb moment, she is one of 2 main characters here who actually gets an arc, as she winds up being the one primarily dealing with the Foundation. I won't get into spoilers as to what her interactions with them entail, but I thought it was a pretty engaging storyline for what it was, and I thought Vega's performance was solid enough that she made for a good lead, even if the character isn't much deeper than your standard slasher protagonist. Now, Matthew Modine's also in the film as Jen's father Scott, and there's a side plot with him trying to track Jen down, as he hasn't heard from her in weeks and he's out looking for her. So he's pretty much the only other major character here with a substantial arc. Again, it's not the deepest story around, end. It's pretty much Modine going for an hour and a half or so saying, I need to find my daughter, or some variant of that. But again, it boils down to his performance, and Modine's a great actor in general, and while there isn't much to his storyline as well, and you really don't learn a ton about his character, I felt Modine's performance made it interesting enough that you do care whether or not he makes it far enough to reach the Foundation, so that was good for what it was. As for the Foundation themselves, I will say they are something of a step up from the cannibals in the first 6 movies, and they definitely have more of a personality than them, and because we're dealing with a large cult now, instead of 3 cannibals, it does give way for more to do as far as pitting the protagonists against them, because now the stakes are increased a bit, because the protagonist can escape a number of these cult members who are all together, only to then run into more of them right around the corner. And it made for this fun game of cat and mouse that made this a pretty entertaining movie for what it was. I still wouldn't call these villains the deepest themselves, though. I did enjoy the performance of the head of the Foundation, known as Venable, played by Bill Sage. I thought he did a solid enough job of giving off these creepy vibes without being too over the top or cartoonish, and the dynamics between him and the group of friends was solid enough for what it was. My only thing is, I still would have liked to have found out more about these villains. You really only learn so much about them, other than that they're this evil cult who do evil things because they have their own vague evil set of rules that they abide by. But there's not much here that really sets them apart from a lot of other villainous cults in horror movies. And while I found the dynamics between our protagonist and antagonist to be fun, still, maybe it's because I just watched 6 of these movies almost back to back where they got progressively worse after the second one, but I actually thought this was pretty solid for what it was. It's definitely a major improvement over most of the entries in this series, though I will say, since those first 6 movies were known for being schlocky B-movies that you're really not supposed to take seriously, if that's what you're looking for here, you're not going to get that, because this is played much more straight-faced than literally all the other movies. But I wouldn't call it so serious that it's somber or depressing. Like, the film still tries eliciting thrills and excitement from you through this survival story and not just beat you down into feeling sad all the time. And I think, thanks to the direction and some decent enough writing from McElroy, I think it accomplished what it set out to do. You get just enough time with the characters to care enough, while the action-oriented scenes were competently made, and the more suspenseful scenes were engaging enough that I wanted to know how things would end up. So, to me, this film is a success. This is nothing like the other wrong turn movies, other than the one thematic link being that the characters take a wrong turn in the woods, and if you're looking for something in the vein of the other movies, you will be disappointed. And while it's also by no means the deepest movie around, it still stands well on its own. It's fairly well acted, with solid enough performances by Charlotte Vega, Bill Sage, and Matthew Modine. It had some exciting action sequences, and some engaging moments of suspense all throughout. It's by no means a masterpiece, but it does what it set out to do, which is provide you an entertaining horror experience. So I'd say this is worth watching. Wrong Turn 2021 gets a 7.5 out of 10. Now that I reviewed this, as well as all 6 of the other movies, I'll have a ranking video out of all 7 films within the next few days, so stay tuned for that, coming soon. But in the meantime, let me know, did you see Wrong Turn, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you enjoy the new direction this took? Did you like it more than some of the other entries in this series? Let me know in the comments below so we can discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, everyone, and keep having fun with film.